Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new Elder Scrolls Online video with me, Sherman. Today we're going to be talking about balance changes that have been coming into the game since One Tamriel, and that's because of what One Tamriel brought into the game. I know a lot of people are going to say that I'm wrong on this fact, but I just want you to hear me out. Coming from a design perspective, if you look at all the changes that have come to the game since One Tamriel, like the adjustments to like them making adjustments to classes and things like that since then, and then gathering data and all this kind of stuff, because they keep bringing that up in a lot of their live streams, that they're gathering data from players, they're gathering data from this, they're gathering data from that, and they do listen to the player base when it comes to certain things, not everything. And the reason why is because of the design structure of the game after One Tamriel, how they did a scaled system. Now that scaled system changed the game's feel from being a more like vertical progression system like we had with the original release of ESO to what we have now, where it's not so much of a vertical progression feeling, it's more of a horizontal, because you don't feel like your character really grows in power from level 1 to 50 besides unlocking skills and attribute points and things like that, and the way the gear skills and everything like that. You don't feel like there's any actual growth to your character, but there is growth. You just don't notice it as much until you get to the higher CP and you see that greater growth in attribute points and things like that. Then you see that your character has some growth, or you unlock the Undaunted Metal, which gives you some growth. But whenever you see any kind of stat growth to your character, you notice that there's some vertical progression there. It's just it's so minute that it doesn't feel like your character really grows in power. And with the way the game scaling system is, they have to balance out the classes against each other, but not to the degree that a lot of people think. They're not trying to make every class the same. They're trying to leave every class different, but with the capabilities of playing every role in their own unique way. And they're trying to balance, like leave the classes with their somewhat specialized play style, like the Nightblade being like one of the best burst DPS, the Sork being one of the best dot DPS kind of things when it comes to the lightning side, and the DK being one of the top dot DPS for the poison side and fire side. Every class has its own unique role when it comes to the type of DPS they do, when it comes to the type of healing they do, whether it be, like with DPS, magic of stamina, and then healing, just the way it is, and then of course tanking. Like every class has its own unique way of tanking, and you have different ways that you can do that. Now, because of this system where they've got all the gear can be worn at max level, every gear type in the game can be, made into CP1, made or gotten at CP160. They also created a balanced gear system. I mean, it's not like, all the gear is equal. It's that it's balanced to have the same values in attributes. Unlike games like World of Warcraft, where like one set would give you like max health, max wisdom, another set's going to give you max health, max strength, and another set's going to give you max health, max dexterity, and then another set's going to give you max health, max intel. But it's going to give you other things in there as well, and those values are going to be like really lopsided in some cases, and it's kind of weird like how they do it, and this game doesn't do that. All the gear values are the same. So like if I'm wearing Julianus or I'm wearing Mother's Sorrow, like we're going to have different values given to us from those, but the numerical values of the crit chance, the weapon damage, the health value, we're not, putting on Plague Doctors because it's not because it doesn't give us a lot of health, it's because it gives us a lot of health. But like the number values, like these number values, like if you look at the Blood Drinker set and compare it to the set I'm using, the crit value that it offers, like one set offers me 2 crit things, the other one offers me a single one, but that single value is the same across the board, because as long as the quality is the same. So if we're talking purple quality, gold quality, it's always going to come out to the same number in the end, at the highest quality. So that kind of balances out the game in that sense. Then you look at what they did with the class changes here with Morrowind. They kind of brought some classes down a notch or two, but still left them with a certain uniqueness to them. They didn't nerf them into the dirt to such a degree. Like, they didn't nerf the Templar healing into the dirt. They still left it with a better healing effect, and it's still one of the better healer classes to play. But there is other classes that can be close to, if not on par, and then other ones are more. They're balanced against each other in that role spectrum. You know, like oh, you can play any class as a healer and still be good. It doesn't matter. It's just if you want to be the most optimized, and because developers know that there's always going to be that meta play style. And people are always going to minimax their characters, and they're always going to go with that thing. But there's also a lot of people they know will just go with what they want because the game allows it. And this game does allow you to play like a Khajiit healer or Nord Magicka user, you know, that kind of thing, because the game's designed to allow that. You have certain flaws. And it's not like you're restricted from gameplay, like from playing in any content, because the game's scaled system allows for you to have a certain numerical value in stats to work within the game's, you know, environment. And that's what the scaling system does, is it allows us to work in the environment kind of thing. But if you, like I said, if you look at the changes, like with Morrowind, they made those changes to the CP system, and they said they gathered a lot of data to make those changes. And that's what they did. It took them that amount of time from the time they did One Tamriel till they came out with Morrowind to realize how offset the champion point system really was, that they made some adjustments to it and are putting it more in balance. Now, it's not perfectly balanced, but it does create more balanced gameplay. The same thing goes with the trait system, with Horns of the Reach and the Mundustone system. They're balancing those out against that system to give them more flexibility and make more things equalized. That not to where they're equal in what they do, but to where they're equalized in their values, so that way they're more presentable to the player base and saying, hey, you know what, you got this option of going with this set instead of this and this and this and this and this, to kind of balance out the game. And I kind of wanted to just kind of explain that to people so people understood from a design perspective what the developers are really trying to do with their game. They're trying to make their game really well balanced, so that means no matter what, if you're playing PvE, PvP, dungeons, trials, your character feels like they fit in that environment no matter what type of build you're playing, because the game was built on this play how you want design structure. And the only way that they could make the game like do the way that a lot of people want is if they put a lot of restrictions on the game. Like, you pick your class, and then you pick the type of role you want to play. Like, if you were to pick a stamina DPS, that means your character is locked into a stamina DPS role the whole time you play the game, and you can't change it. You're stuck with that. If they did that kind of restriction on the game, that just puts too many restrictions against the players, and a lot of the players would leave the game, because a lot of people want that Elder Scrolls feeling. You know, like that, they want the Elder Scrolls game, but they want that massive multiplayer experience, or that more group-friendly experience. Like, a lot of us who wanted multiplayer in Skyrim, we just wanted the ability to play with like 3 or 4 of our friends and call it good. We didn't want a massive multiplayer experience. We wanted a co-op experience. And a cooperative game experience would have been great. A massive multiplayer experience just makes the world feel more alive. And that's also what the scaling system allows, is it allows content to become non-essential. Like in World of Warcraft, if you look at a lot of the content, a lot of it becomes useless and obsolete, and it's like, you know, it's only there for leveling purposes. This game's content is so open-ended that there is no, like, the world never feels like you can't go play in it. It feels like you can always do stuff in it, because the way the game's scaling system is. Like, you can go to Orsinium at any level you want and play that content. You can go to Craglorn and play that content. You can go to, you know, Cyrodiil and play that content. And it doesn't feel like every time you switch those zones, like, you have to be more powerful. It just feels like I fit into this game zone. But then when you go talk about dungeons and trials, that's where they put in the more organized group play. Like, you just have to have an organized group. Honestly, you don't have to have superior builds to play the content, and because it's designed not to. It's designed to work with the broader spectrum of the community, and not just the hardcore in-game players, because they want the content to be available to everyone. They want that the difficulty to be you know, like for the average player, they want it to be hard enough that it feels challenging but not impossible. The same thing goes with trials. They want it to feel challenging but not impossible. And they put the things in like leaderboards and all that kind of stuff in there for the people who are chasing that, you know, like the hardcore. They put it in for the hardcore players who like to do trials in the hardcore way, and they put the leaderboards in there for something for them to chase. MMOs are about a carrot on a stick, honestly. Like, every developer knows that the more you can get the players to chase something, the more effective it's going to get them to want to play that content, because they're going to chase that stuff. Like with World of Warcraft, they know that the gear treadmill is what you're chasing, and so you're going to want to move up and move up and move up and move up and move up in your gear score, because it's going to be the best quality gear you can get. And that's how they did that. That's how they made that game work so well. Was that game was literally built around gear score. But could you imagine if World of Warcraft had a scaled system like this? Like, you enter the game, and no matter, like, if the whole world, like, no matter where you went in the world, the instance of that zone basically scaled to you. Like, everything in that zone scaled to your character. Do you know how much more exciting World of Warcraft would be for players if they could just roam the world at any level and the content scaled to them? Like, the whole game world would become something of excitement for even high-level players, because they could actually go play in any zone and feel like it was pertinent. When you play a game that's an MMO, and you limit the players to like a certain amount of zones available to them at their level, it makes the content feel dull. Like, after a while, like, because you only have like this one map to play in, and then the only thing else you have to do is grind gear or level characters, and that's not fun. But when you have that freedom to just kind of go and explore and do your own thing, that's where it gives that freedom to the players, to where they can just kind of go do their own thing, and the content works with them. It doesn't work against them. It doesn't, you know, like, it doesn't work against them. It doesn't become so easy. It's just like a joke. Like where you just go in and you sneeze and every mob in the zone dies kind of thing. You know, it doesn't have that. It has this replayability, a lot of replayability, and it's really good that they have it. I mean, it would be nice if they added, you know, to the older content, like if they went back to older zones, added new quests and things like that, to give a reason for players to go back to that content besides farming gear or, you know, farming certain aspects of the game. But if they actually added content, you know, new content to existing gear, or existing content, like added new content to existing content, that's it. If they did that, I think the game would become a lot better, in my personal opinion. But when it comes to, like, why are they making all these changes, why are they making all these nerfs, they're not really nerfing anything. You think that they're nerfing it because it's scaling your character down a little bit and making your character feel a little weaker. But in reality, it's not making your character weaker. It's making your character fit within the design structure of the game, so that way you can actually play the content and not feel so overpowered that the content's too easy. And they're making adjustments to a lot of this stuff so that the game is more balanced feeling, not only in PvE, but it also become more balanced in PvP, because everyone's on more of an equal level then, or of an equal number value, if you will. So that way, like, when it comes to PvP, you know, you go into there, and your character's going to fit into that environment because it's design structure. Yes, you can play through dungeons with end-pin gear, guys. That's already been proven. Like, it is possible. You just lose, like, you know, some certain amount of crit value, or whatever. You know, you're going to lose whatever your Mundus Stone advantage is if you're wearing Divines or not wearing Divines. But that's the other thing. Like, if you were to take all the gear in the game and put it on one character, like put all the different types of gear types on a character and went through all the different build spectrums that you could do with every type of gear and every type of trait and every type of Mundus Stone and every type of skill combination, you know, for those types of builds, for the different types of roles, you would find out that the game has such a broad spectrum of build structure that it like, there's no definition to how defining it is, like, because we have so many different possibilities of role type builds that you can make. You know, you can make, like, you know, few hundred thousand different stamina builds. You can make a few 100,000 different magicka, you know, like stamina DPS builds, magicka DPS builds, tank builds, healer builds, this and that, because of all the different combinations of gear, traits, Mundus stones, stats, glyphs, all that kind of stuff. And yes, hybrids are viable in content. People just don't want them, don't like them in the meta, because a lot of people want a meta hybrid, but it's really hard to make a meta hybrid that isn't defined by a specific race, and that's the Dark Elf, because of the way the stat system works in the game. So you're kind of like, But that's the truth. I mean, you can't reach the values and stats that you can in a pure stam DPS or a pure Magicka DPS. Trying to make a hybrid one, you would have to have 30k in both, or 28k actually in both, to meet the damage values of a person with a 30k, a 32k or 34k or 38k stamina, because then the comparison of the two stats and the damage values would be more equalized to that of a person at a higher level. But still, you would have to set up such a good skill allocation, rotation, that kind of thing, to where you could mimic that of a meta stamina build with this hybrid, build or hybrid meta build, to where the damage would be equalized. Your damage difference would be literally on par with theirs, and that's really hard to do. The same thing goes with if you're playing a hybrid tank. Hybrid tanks are really good, but they're not the best option always. It's because sometimes the stamina tank is better than a hybrid tank, and then a Magicka tank is better than a hybrid tank. And only certain classes really pull off the hybridization really well. So it's all classes can pull it off, but certain ones really pull it off, really well. So it's you have that in the game, and it's, I can't explain how broad the build system is, because you can say, oh, well, there's over 1 million something build combinations, but people don't really, that number doesn't really mean anything. People are going to ask how many of them are viable. Well, literally every type of build combination, as long as it's directed towards a certain role type, will be viable, because of the game's designed to work with that within a certain numerical value of your attributes, weapon damage, resistance, all that kind of stuff, that you would only have to reach a certain value because of the way the game world's scaled. You would literally only have to reach that numerical value, and your character would fit in any content in the game. They'd work in dungeons, they'd work in trials, they'd work here, they'd work there. But we don't have any gear sets that offer that kind of flexibility or defining setup, if you will. But that's it, guys. I would like to go into a lot more detail and everything, but I really want to get back to doing a little bit more testing with some traits and some Mundus, stone combinations. But honestly, I'm so limited that I don't really have a lot of choices, and it's really leaving me with this bad taste in my mouth right now, because I want to bring you guys more information on what's going to be best, but I just don't have the tools to do it. I don't have I don't have a crafter at max level on the EU side, so I'm gonna have to do that. I'm gonna have to get around to making a character on EU and just maxing them out, just logging in just to max them out in their crafting and their different things, so that way I can just say, hey, you know what, I want to do this, do, kind of thing, and that way when I do get on test, I have a character on the EU side that I can test with. So, but unfortunately I don't. I should. But that's it, guys, for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know that I might have gone over some stuff that a lot of people might not agree with me with, but that's just because people's opinions vary. But from my perspective and from a design perspective, that's what I see is going on with all these changes, is to kind of bring, like I said, a lot of balance to the game. So if you guys enjoyed this video, hit that like button. Be greatly appreciated. If you guys want to see more videos by me, hit that subscribe button. Also greatly appreciated. Until next time, have a wonderful day. I will see you all later. Bye.